Welcome to the Tactical Business Podcast. I'm your host, Wade Skalski, and today I'm speaking with Andy Hallinan from Warrior Marketing Group. Andy, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well, Wade. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm excited. And I have to say from the outset, you were so gracious to reschedule. I'm in the middle of a move right now, and you greatly reduced my stress. So that means we're going to have an outstanding podcast today instead of if it was yesterday, where it would have been a horrible, horrible mess. So I'm excited for some podcasting gold today.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Good, good. Well, I know that you've been on the podcast before, and I'm excited to talk about what's changed for you between now and then. But if someone hasn't heard the previous episode, walk us through a little bit about how you got into the marketing arena today, how you got into this niche, sort of the path that led you here.
Yeah, I'm a little bit unusual, Wade. I was raised in a very anti-gun family in Massachusetts. My family taught me to believe that guns are evil and that the only people that have them are cops and bad guys. And so in my 20s, I was working in the marketing world. I'm working with like Sony and Gillette and just the top names in the country. I'm making tons of money. Had nothing to do with firearms until the Aurora 2012 Batman massacre occurred, right? Where a guy walks in with a gun, AR-15, to a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, and just took out like 30 people. And that was really the first time in my adult life that I realized the value of the Second Amendment. And I also realized that I now had a mission for the first time in my life. It was going to be my destiny, my calling, if you will, to make sure that never happened again. And I quit my job, bought my first gun, and became a certified instructor that same weekend. And since then, I've trained over 30,000 students in firearm safety all across the country and really developed a movement of people to get armed, get trained, and carry daily. About 6 years ago, I woke up one day and said, you know what? I am just darn good at filling classes. I wonder if I can help others fill their classes. And so I started embarking on a coaching mission where I now find other instructors to join my coaching program and instructors in FFLs, really. So both, instructors and the sales side of the gear. And I train them on how to find their own 30,000 using direct response marketing, Facebook ads, funnel marketing, and so on and so forth. And it's just been a wild journey. And hopefully I've had a fantastic impact in this industry.
Yeah, no, and I think I love hearing sort of the different stories about how people got to where they are because, everyone, I think there's these cliches out there that, oh, you had to be in the military or you had to grow up like I did hunting, right? And so, and if that's not true, it's because it's the gun community is as broad as any other community. Now, were you from Colorado or where in the country were you when that happened?
Born in Colorado, raised in Massachusetts,
Mm.
which I now refer to as Taxachusetts.
All right.
And I'm now down here in Ocala, Florida. This is the land of the free. The governor is fantastic with the Second Amendment, and this is just a great Second Amendment state.
Yeah, I met my wife in Los Angeles and then I moved from Los Angeles to Virginia Beach that I didn't even know was a place, but she's from here. And although Virginia has some restrictions, it's a lot better than California with regards to gun culture. So,
And that's the whole thing, right? I do have instructors in gun businesses out of California, and remarkably, they do really well because although the leadership of the state seems to be a little bit anti-gun or a lot anti-gun in the case of California, the people really aren't. And so even my instructors in gun businesses in California are doing well.
yeah, and it depends on, California is such a large state. It's like 3 or 4 different states in one, really. So you have
It is.
that, that sort of Northern California, south of the Fresno area or the Central Valley area in there where there's all the farming and the people right there are just like my people back home in North Dakota, man. They're very pro gun. So you have that experience, you get into the marketing aspect of it. And how long has I guess that's been almost 20 years that you've been doing it then?
I've been in the industry since 2012. So yeah, that would be
13. So, all
yeah.
right. I was told there was no math today. That's why I became a lawyer and not a doctor originally.
Yeah, I
because
struggled with that one too. I was about to bust out the calculator.
math and science. And so it is okay. So a decade, over a decade. So that's a long enough period of time. What have you noticed during that time that has changed? Are things that are trending in your industry? Are they the same? Are they administration specific? So how has that sort of changed over that time?
Well, I think that we definitely see a downturn when in the firearm industry in general, when Trump's in office. We call it the Trump slump in the industry. But realistically, the instructors in the gun businesses that work with me don't see that slump. And the reason is we're able to reach an audience that has been typically turned off. We have, we have all sorts of restrictions in the gun industry. All of your listeners and viewers are going to know about the restrictions we have, but believe it or not, we are allowed to advertise on Facebook. We are allowed to share organically, and there's been a big shift in the industry for the positive. To be honest. So Mark Zuckerberg was on the Rogan show a number of months ago, and basically said, you know what, we got it wrong. What we did with censorship was wrong, both from a moral perspective and what we did to the country, and from a platform perspective. And so a lot of these social media avenues are shifting direction to allow the content that their users are looking for. And that was Zuckerberg's point. He said, we started being, overly censoring on, some of the content, firearms, and he named several industries. And what he's learned, and this is a beautiful thing, is that if people want gun content, the platform benefits from showing them gun content, right? And so we're actually seeing a shift. In March of 2025, there was a big behind the scenes, mostly unspoken shift on the Facebook side, especially, where Facebook now allows organic posting directly to the sale of a firearm or ammunition, as long as that person is a valid federal firearms license. And recently I attended the National Shooting Sports Foundation marketing conference in Clearwater, and there was a liaison there. I forget his name, but he's now a liaison to the gun world and works full time for Facebook. And his whole goal and his whole job, and the reason they've hired him, is to be be a bridge to the gun world. And his advice organically was go bold, sell guns on Facebook as an FFL, go bold and test the system, which is a beautiful thing. But on the organic side of things, you really have a limited reach. And it's not because of shadow bans, right? A lot of folks think that Facebook hates guns. And I could draw you a graph right now of, Facebook's interest in guns and the removal of gun topics. And when you compare that to the removal of like spam or, terrible child material, I won't even say the words, the gun industry is just not even like, they don't have special algorithms seeking out firearms. They just don't care. They're apathetic. But what they're doing now is they're opening up their algorithms to allow this type of content. And then on the paid side of things, it's much easier for us to hit the target market that we want and get our message out there than it is on the organic side, because the organic side, we're still limited to the normal, everyday, shadow banning reach, whereas paid ads allowed us to hit that target market with extreme accuracy. And we've seen just a massive increase in the reach, the sales, and the revenue produced by paid advertisers in our gun space. But it's still a new concept. And so I've been wildly successful getting gun businesses, instructors, FFLs, gun stores on paid ads and driving revenue through that. It's been a great wild ride, and 2025 is looking even better.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things where you're first to market, right? So because the social media platforms are kind of like, I'm going to date myself here, but Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football, right? I mean, that actually may be aging out for people, but is the thing is where the algorithms keep, they're good and then they're bad and then they're good and then they're bad. But the key is, and I think you're exactly right, is that you cannot replace the reach of Meta and its ads and its targeting. It's impossible for any other platform to be able to do that, what they can do, just given the interaction that users have on Facebook. And so if you can use it and they'll let you use it, and I've always advised my clients, because I write in the industry, to use the platform, but then get their email address, get them off of the platforms. That then no matter what happens to the algorithm, sure, maybe Facebook changes its mind in 2 years, but then you have an asset in your email list that you can constantly keep reaching out to these people that are interested.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So everything we do on a paid space or even organic, right? Our goal is to get that user off of Facebook, not for them to delete their account, but our goal is to get them to leave Facebook, enter our website, enter their name, email, phone number in some fashion. And then one of the unique things that I do is that every ad campaign I run, my goal is at the acquisition of the customer email into our email list. My goal is to monetize, not, for hundreds of dollars in profit, but enough profit that we cover our marketing cost. And so that allows us to spend way more on advertising dollars because we're paying our marketing bill at the point of acquisition of the customer, which is a very different thing. Traditionally, companies have to come up with, a marketing budget, spend that marketing budget over a month, and then wait several months for that money to return home for the return on ad spend. But we actually acquire that 90% of the time or so at the point of acquisition of the new customer.
Yeah, and that's if you can get a self-liquidating funnel like that where it it pays for itself, then you can scale it because you're like, all right, well, it's yeah, we have this acquisition cost, but for whatever it is that we're selling or whatever it is that we can point to the value of this upfront with if it's a low ticket offer or whatever, then the advertising pays for itself. And if you can get people to understand that, once that clicks for them, then they're like, holy smokes. But it takes a while for the education bridge because most people I would say 75 to 80% of people get into the gun business because it's their passion. They're not business people. They're not online marketers. They're not, in terms of like big thinkers in terms of the space. I mean, some of these, I know some of these ammunition manufacturers that still do everything on a legal pad, right? So it's so there. It's just an education bridge for them get them to understand that because the passion itself is not enough for the business.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's why I'm so successful as a coach is because each business is different and every instructor's background or gun business or FFL is different. And so, they can go with, for instance, you and I both know, Wade, a lot of people who have been burned by traditional marketing agencies where they spend a whole bunch of money, they promise a bunch of results, and at the end of the day, they have nothing to show for it. And so what I'm doing as a coach is I'm teaching the firearm instructor, the gun business, whoever it is that I'm working with, I'm teaching them the data and the metrics behind advertising so that when they run ads themselves within their own company or within their own organization, they will never have to hire a marketing agency again. They'll never have to be burned again because they handle it internally. And marketing in the digital marketing space, especially direct response, it's 100% data driven. There's no guesswork. A little bit of best effort when we first come up with an initial plan to go to market. For instance, if a gun business wants to get more buyers into their email list, which is, there's no question that we want to do that as a gun business. Well, what we need to do is we need to offer a Facebook friendly version, even though we are allowed to show guns in our ads on Facebook, a Facebook friendly version. It could be a hat, a t-shirt, a free plus shipping offer. But at the end of the day, we're getting a buyer to make a small commitment, something under $20. That money pays the advertising bill for that day. And then they're able to take the money the next day and spend it again. And at the end of the day, even if Facebook shuts them down, cease to exist, whatever the case may be, they now have a list of buyers in their email that they can go after lifetime value out of those people and build that relationship over the next 12 months so that the lifetime value of that customer can be, $1,200 a year in lifetime value. And that's really what we focus on as coaches. And the beauty of direct response digital marketing, especially on Facebook in the gun world, is that every step of that path, from the moment that they see the ad to they click on it, to the purchase, to the monetization afterwards, it's all data driven. And when you know the numbers and when you know what numbers you need to expect, then you really get the best return on your investment and you get to grow your business the fastest way possible because you know which step is broken or not working and what you need to spend your time optimizing on.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a math problem if you know how to do it, right? And
Yep.
so, and that's the cool thing to get people to understand, is that like is if you and first of all you have to sell something too. It's like I have met some people in my writing business who they say, "Oh, I want to be a thought leader," or "I want to like," or whatever. I'm like, "Great, that means that you're going to fire me in 6 months because you're not making any money." You know what I mean? And so I love your approach where you're like, "Let's make money from the jump," and operate from a position of strength because there is a lot of sort of fool's gold out there with terms of marketing companies. And when I had my law firm, I don't even want to think about how much money I gave to marketing companies. And I always gave them the same speech. I was like, if you make me money, I will give you more money. Right. And no one ever really delivered on that except for like maybe one or two people over a 20-year legal career. And so the fact that you teach people how to do that themselves, it takes away the mystery which is important because then people aren't a slave to their marketing budget, right? They can do it themselves. And I think that's really important.
That's exactly right. Or, the algorithm changes all the time. So once we get a gun business approved to run ads with guns in them, if the algorithm changes or, the climate changes, like with the new administration that you mentioned earlier, Wade, what they can do is they can still analyze the data and not be, the amount of times that I've worked with gun businesses that say, well, my agency said it was the algorithm and my agency said it was this. Well, we know what the data says. And once you know what the data says, you really unlock freedom to grow your business because it's just math and it's just numbers. And if this number is not what we need to have, this is the problem. For instance, your ads, just to be clear on Facebook, for anybody that's running Facebook ads, your ads need to have a 3% click-through rate and a 1% outbound click-through rate. And if you're not hitting those metrics, you've got a problem with the creative or the people you're showing it to. Then your landing page needs to have 20% opt-in rate. If you're not, your offer is terrible or something else is broken. And then you need to have 3% sales rate. And if you hit those numbers, you know that you can grow your business. And if you miss those numbers, you can figure out why. And it's a brilliant strategy to grow, especially in our industry, because firearm businesses and instructors don't think they can show ads with guns in them. They feel like they're limited. They feel like they're going to get banned or whatever. But once we get approved to run gun ads on Facebook, there is an approval process. I literally have ads out there, and I'm holding a gun, and I say, firearm instructors and gun businesses, this is a gun, and we're able to advertise this on Facebook, and it's transforming this industry because for the first time, it's unlocking this behemoth that has been the most profitable vertical in any industry, for the last 10 or 20 years.
Well, I think one thing is that I think people have to understand that the platforms are not all the same. So if you touch a gun on a YouTube video, instant problem. If you touch it, you could have a gun in a video, but if you touch it on YouTube, instant problem, right? So the people, they know that, they hear that or whatever, and they try to transfer it over to Facebook. But like you said, the algorithm changes. So yeah, you can actually hold a gun, lift it up, show pictures of people holding it, and that is a monumental change. Just that knowledge itself can change your entire business. And what you describe as a math problem is actually perfect for gun people because they're the nerdiest. Some of them are some of the nerdiest gun people nerdiest people you'll ever meet in terms of metrics. Like just if you listen to some of my precision shooting interviews, some of those dudes, they'll sit there and they'll talk metrics with you about precision shooting for hours and hours and hours. So it's just the key to get them to understand, hey, look, the skills that it takes for you to geek out on building an AR or precision shooting or whatever it is that you're doing, those skills are the exact type of skills you need to be able to run your marketing. It's just different parts, right? That's it.
That's it. And, so what we need to do to run Facebook ads is choose, for a gun business, for instance, we need to choose that non-gun product and give an offer that people can't refuse, right? In the marketing world, whether we're in the firearm industry or not, it's always been the same. We need to give people a reason. Why sign up and buy today when I can just do it later? And if we can answer that question and give an irresistible offer, something they just can't refuse, that as they're scrolling, they stop what they're doing, they see the offer, they jump on your page and they buy. We need to make it irresistible and a non-gun product. But we can use firearms in the ads, right? Like some of my ads just literally are a picture of a gun. And it says, firearm instructors, I am allowed to advertise guns on Facebook. I am allowed to use guns in paid ads on Facebook. And so it's opening up this opportunity that a lot of gun businesses, none of their competition are competing on the Facebook space because they don't know they have that ability. So it's just been a beautiful 2025 for this industry.
And also, I think it's great you talk about, the urgency, creating urgency, but also the pattern interrupt, right? So you're playing off that pattern interrupt that, hey, so this guy's pulling a gun on Facebook on an ad? I didn't think he could do that. Immediately, you're going to grab somebody, right? And so that is just a wonderful thing to start thinking about. And I think too, what's really important for people in the training space to understand is that it's a consumable effectively because gun training is it's a perishable skill, right? If you are a gun person and you don't go to the range a certain number of times per month, whatever that is for you, you're going to start to suck at shooting. It's just a fact, right? It's a perishable skill. And so, and it's unlike buying a gun where you may buy one gun a year, or most people don't buy a gun every month. Okay, most people. So that's a little bit harder, but it's almost like a supplement, right? Where like if you need to train monthly to be able to really to stay good, to stay sharp. So you're constantly, once you get a customer in that training space, you have that monthly recurring revenue and you can build a really strong business. And I think the ability that you have to make them understand that and to leverage Facebook in that way can be extremely profitable.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the monthly recurring revenue idea, especially in the gun world. I mean, I deal with so many instructors, and one of the things I ask on my sales call or my strategy call with them is I say, you know, do you know anything about karate? And most people are like, nah, I really don't know anything about karate. And then I say, but what color belt do you start with? And everybody in the world can say, you start with a white belt. And I say, so what belt color do you end with? And everybody in the world can also say black belt. And then I ask them this powerful question. I said, why don't we have that in the gun world, right? Where somebody starts here and they go here. In the marketing world, people are not going to buy a product or service unless it transforms them. They need to know very clearly where they're going. And when people are advertising just a class, nobody wants a class. Nobody wants to go sit in a boring classroom, death by PowerPoint. What they want is to be transformed. So they want to go from being a beginner in the firearm world to being able to go to the shooting range and have confidence that they're not going to embarrass themselves or hurt somebody. And then from there, they want to be going from that confidence level to, really being able to defend and protect their family. And so what so many instructors are doing is they're selling the class and they're saying, come take my class. But that's not what we should be selling. We should be selling the transformation. And we should call that journey from the white belt to the black belt. We should call it something. One of my clients uses ultimate protector, right? Go from where you're at in life to become the ultimate protector. And what we should be advertising is where you're going to become after they've gone through your services. And that brings back the monthly recurring revenue that so many folks take class one, they never traverse to class two. And so we need to have two things. Number one, automation that, brings somebody who's taken class one and invites them into class two on a regular basis. And number two, we need to have a reason that they should embark on that journey. And it's not because they're going to, it's not even that they're going to be more skilled or more confident or more, be able to defend their family, but it's who they're going to become, right? It's called aspirational marketing. That's the concept. It's aspirational marketing. We take the consumer, we convince them that they want to become an ultimate protector, for instance, and then we line out the journey to get there. And throughout that education process of the aspirational marketing, they're feeling so connected to your brand that they wouldn't go anywhere else because you're the only place that can get them there. You're the only place that can make them become who they want to be. And that's also a difference that we're seeing in this industry is that, every gun dealer sells a Smith and Wesson, and, M&P 9C or the Smith and Wesson EZ, for instance. They all sell it. They all sell it for a similar price point. So the question is, why buy it from Joe's gun shop? Because Joe's gun shop needs to be focused on who the person is after who the person is going to become, not the actual physical product. And this is something that we're seeing just great results on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. And that martial arts analogy that's an elite analogy because it's so true. Like I do jujitsu, right? And so jujitsu is very difficult and it's hard to do over a period of time, but the belt does drive you in those times when you need it, right? And I think what you're talking about creating a transformation for the normal person is like right now in the gun culture for 99% of businesses, you have, all right, well, self-protection, which is just like this amorphous, okay, you got to know how to use and shoot the gun. And if you can put the paper at targets, you can put a grouping of paper targets, you're probably okay. To like, I'm going to LARP as a special forces person. And then there's like no real in between, right? So you're going to do one of those are your two paths. And if you can, and that's those two paths, I would say only really fit for maybe 1 to 5% for the special forces LARPing and maybe like 15% for the protection part, right? But if you can create something, a path for someone in between that is so powerful for someone and that will differentiate your brand from your geographically from anyone else in your region, I think it's genius.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely, it's being used in other industries. And when you look at it from a business perspective, one of the things that I try to do is to not reinvent the wheel, but look at other industries that are successful and, copy some of those processes and procedures into our industry. Because as you mentioned earlier, Wade, there's a lot of folks out there that are in the firearm world because they're passionate about it, or they had an event that happened in their life that brought them into the industry. But the marketing side of things is the toughest part because we're all selling the same thing. We're selling the same gear, the same equipment, the same firearms. We're selling very similar training classes. I mean, there are specialty training operations out there, but for the most part, an intro to firearms class in Virginia is going to be an intro to firearms class in North Dakota, right? And so the way that we differentiate ourselves and the way that my clients do is I teach them that aspirational marketing is that we really focus on who is the person going to become after they've interacted with your business. And when we start from that perspective, the reception is much easier from a psychological standpoint. We're able to uniquely, create a unique selling point for our business. And it reminds me of a book I read years ago in the beginning of my marketing career. It was called Differentiate or Die. And this is a way that we differentiate ourselves. And my clients have learned to really set themselves apart is to focus on that idea of who the person's going to become. A good example is a mother who, is feeling uneasy about the civil unrest in America, and she doesn't know where to get started, and she's kind of nervous and intimidated by guns. Well, you can have a class out there, and most instructors start from the standpoint of, well, I'll offer a women's only class, right? Just for women, so she'll feel more comfortable. And that's a good step in the right direction. But what's going to make her feel very comfortable is marketing language, whether it's a women's only class or not, marketing language that says you are going to become the mother that your children look up to. And part of that is being the mama bear that's going to defend her cubs in case of any emergency. And if you take our women's only class, you will become the woman that is steadfast and empowered and confident and, is able to protect her family. And one of the things that your kids will remember about you is that you were the mom that had their back, right? And when you create that type of marketing language in a video, especially, that video becomes just shareable so that even your paid advertising goes further and irresistible because what mother doesn't want to become that mama bear, right? We see it in nature all the time, and we see it in human nature.
Well, and everyone has a woman's class, right? And it's like and they're like, "Oh, everybody bring your pink guns," right? Well, yeah, okay, that's great, and those work out great, and that's more of a social event, but that doesn't meet the need that you're talking about as much as, "No, I wanna be the mama bear for my kid." It can be social, but there's there's a whole niche of people that will fit in for. And I think I think it's extremely smart because it is a differentiator. And also it's in the best interest of the client too. And I think that's a really important thing for people to understand is marketing gets kind of a bad name where um, people think it's like a magic trick and that there's something wrong with it or whatever. And it's like, look, if your product is if we can all agree that the product, let's say gun training, for example, right, is good, people need to train on their firearm to be safe and to be effective. Okay, I think we can all agree that that's true, right? If we can create an environment that allows people to continue in spite of the fact that sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's expensive, sometimes you have other things priorities that might impact that. But if we can create the conditions for success by giving it a name and differentiating, then that helps the client get to a good place for them. It's not just something that's just for me to sell some more training.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I actually do get instructors all the time that, or gun businesses that say, well, I don't want to push sales in front of my customers. And my answer is, then you really don't believe in what you're doing because at the end of the day, if we look at sales like, as a business, owner, it's our job to sell. As a business, it's the business's job to make money, right? And when we look at our industry, a lot of my firearms instructors or FFLs, that say, I don't want to push sales. I don't want to send an email out too often to my list because I don't want to seem too salesy. Well, that means that we have a core fundamental problem with our belief system. My belief system is that I am so impassioned, and it is my duty to stop this type of shooting that happened at Aurora, Colorado, the Batman massacre, from ever happening again. That if I don't pitch my services and if I don't sell firearms to my customers, I'm doing them a disservice, and I'm not actually honoring my obligation and my mission that I've decided to embark on, that I've been called to do. Because if I truly believed that these products and services serve the customer and makes them a safer shooter, makes them a safer mom or dad, makes the community safer, if I don't believe those things, then I'm going to have trouble selling. But if I truly believe in my core mission, then I have no problem having a sales pitch and asking for a sale, because I truly believe that it's going to benefit them, benefit the community, and ultimately I'm going to reap the rewards for it because my family will be safer as there are more people out there carrying concealed legally, right? And
And
that's the perspective I come
and
from it.
and you have to be willing to do that because you may train the person that stops the next Aurora shooter, right? Like you may train that kid that got that stopped that shooter in that mall that just, you know what I'm saying? I can't remember what that kid's name was, but he was like 19 and he was, I don't know, it was like
Oh
just
yeah, the
amazing.
lawful defender saved his, stopped it and saved lives. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing too is that you what other choice do firearms businesses have? I see them making this choice where they're okay. Well, what we're going to do is that we're going to put out this kind of this crazy content to attract people to us, and so then you get these like absurd classes where people are they're just trying to make up instead of teaching the fundamentals and then selling the transformation. They try to monkey with the fundamentals and they put their own spin on something, and then you have these absurd videos of people doing things that are frankly unsafe and retarded, right? And so that's your shift that you want to do is you want to say no, let's focus on the transformation, let's focus on the client, and let's you can't go wrong doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we couple aspirational marketing, when we couple aspirational marketing, who does the person want to become with great social paid ads on Facebook? We have an unstoppable ability to reach a market that we haven't reached before, connect with consumers that want to build relationship with a brand and want somebody to trust and believe in. And then from there, the brand loyalty kicks in because ultimately, again, we can go to Google and we can search for the same Smith and Wesson or the same Glock everybody else sells, but it's the brand loyalty that's going to make the consumer buy from you rather than someone else. And that's why I've been so successful as a coach.
Well, and that's true. I mean, my local range where I take private lessons, it's I don't have a problem buying stuff from them because every time I go there, they make my family safer, right? And if you can create that connection, then I'm willing to pay a little bit extra. And then, yeah, I know it's not. I get it cheaper by going online or whatever, but why would I do that? I mean, unless there's a gun they have I can't get, but so I think everything that you're saying is in alignment with really sound principles, and that is one thing about our industry is that I don't know, you probably are familiar with like the 1911 FUD hate, right? I don't have a problem with 1911s, but like people are like, it's a FUD gun, right? And then it's the meme of like the really old guy. There is some truth to that though in the business of from like best practices in the firearms business because it is catching up to other things that other industries have been doing for 20 years are just now getting to the firearms industry. So if you can embrace some of these direct response principles, if you can embrace some of these more modern marketing ideas, you really set yourself apart from your competition.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. And a lot of the times these gun owners, these instructors, they're very passionate. They just need a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and there's so much cool innovation out there too, because there is innovation. I mean, there are you can make an AK in your own way and have it be cool, right? Like I'm very bullish on the manufacturing aspect of the gun industry because I think the country is really going to is going to sorely need to expand its manufacturing base, and I think the gun industry can lead the way. And frankly, it is in a lot of different ways. And so I want all my like physical plant manufacturing people to get on board with what you're doing as well, because I think the sky is the limit for that.
Yeah, I completely agree. 2025, 2026, they're going to be remarkable years for our industry. Although there is a little bit of a cause, for a reduction in sales because the people that are coming to the market for the first time who believe that their rights are, in danger, that we've seen a little bit of a slowdown there, but we've seen a huge influx since the civil unrest and riots that are occurring. And us gun owners that are in this industry and we know what's going on in the country, we know that type of stuff, that type of event is only going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Right.
And so as that continues to happen, we do see, a rise in firearm ownership, especially first time firearm ownership. So, if I was going to leave some lasting advice for your viewers that are in the gun world and in the gun industry, I would say this: transform your marketing into who your customer is going to become after they've done business with you, because they've done business with you. and also get on Facebook ads. And, I'm happy to show them the way if they need some help.
Well, and I think that's great advice. How do people find you? So where are you at in socials? What's your website? How if people want to get a hold of you and inquire about your services? How do they do that?
Yeah, great question. So if they go to warriormarketinggroup.com, that they're going to pull up my site there. And also if they go on Facebook and just go into Facebook search and search Andy the Gun Guy, they'll pull me up and they'll see that page there. And of course they can always email me at andy@warriormarketinggroup.com.
Well, listen, I've loved having you on today and chatting about these topics. I could literally talk about this type of business stuff all day long, if you can't tell. But I'm really excited to see sort of what's going to be trending over the next 6 months or a year, and I'd love to have you back on the show again to talk about where we've come from and see what Facebook is doing now and how the gun industry can um, take advantage of it because I think you're doing great work out there.
Well, you can count on me to come back, and I also refer all of my coaching clients to you guys if they have any problems with payment issues or anything like that. I send them right your way.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. So give the contact information one more time, and then we'll get you off going today.
Yeah, have folks head over to warriormarketinggroup.com and they can just Google my name, Andy Hallinan. They can pull me up that way as well. But warriormarketinggroup.com, tell them to book a call. There's a link there that they can book a strategy call with me. I'll jump on Zoom with them, learn more about their business, find out what they're doing right, what they can improve upon, and come up with a strategy right there on the call.
Well worth the time. Well worth the time. All right, Andy. Well, thanks for coming on today, and I can't wait to talk to you again. Have a great day.
Thanks, Wade. Great meeting you.